The Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain. Chapter 8. Tom dogged hither and thither through lanes until he was well off the track of returning scholars and then fell into muddy joke. He crossed a small branch 2 or 3 times because of a prevailing juvenile superstition that to cross water buffet pursuit. Half an hour later, he was disappearing behind the Douglas mansion on the summit of Curtis Hill, and the schoolhouse was hardly distinguishable away off in the valley behind him. He entered a dense woods, picked his pathless way to the center of it, and sat down on a mossy spot under a spreading oak. There was not even zephyr stirring the dead moon they had even stilled the songs of the birds. Nature lay in a trance that was broken by no sound but occasionally far off hammering of a woodpecker, and he seemed to render the pervading silence and sense of loneliness the more profound. The boy's soul was steeped in a melancholy. His feelings were in happy accord with his surroundings. He sat long with elbows on his knees and his chin in his hands, meditating. It seemed to think that life was but a trouble at best, and the more than half envied Jim Hawks so lately relaxed, it must be very peaceful, he thought, to lie and slumber and dream forever and ever, with the wind whispering through the trees and caressing the grass and the flowers over the grave, and nothing to bother and grieve about even anymore. If he only had a clean Sunday school record, he could be willing to go and be done with it all. Now, as to this girl, what had he done? Nothing. He had meant the best in the world, and been treated like a dog. Like every dog, she would be sorry someday, maybe when it was too late. Ah, if he could only die temporarily, but the elastic heart of youth cannot be compressed into one constrained shape long at a time. Tom presently began to drift insensibly back into the concerts of the life again. What if he turned his back now and disappeared mysteriously? What if he went away, even so far away, into unknown countries beyond the seas, and ever came back anymore? How would she feel then? The idea of being a clown recurred to him now, only to fill him with disgust. For frivolity and jokes and spotted things were an offense when they intruded themselves upon a spirit that was exalted into the big august realm of the romantic. No, he would be a soldier and return after long years, all war-worn and illustrious. No, better still, he would join the Indians and hunt buffaloes and go on the warpath in the mountain range and the trackless great plains of the far west, and away in the future come back a great chief, bristling with feathers, hideous with paint, and pressed into Sunday school some drowsy summer morning, with a blood-curdling wardrobe, and sear the ables of all his companions with unnoticeable envy. But no, there was something gaudier even than this. He would be a pirate. That was it. Now his future lay playing before him, and glowing with unimaginable splendor. How his name would fill the world and make people shudder. How gloriously he would go plowing the dancing seas in his long low back-hauled racer, the spirit of the storm, with his grisly flag flying at the fort, and at the zenith of his fame, how he would suddenly appear at the old village and stalk into church, brown and weather-beaten in his black velvet, doubled and trunks, his great jackbots, his crimson sash, his belt bristling with horse pistol, his crying. Rusted cutlass at his side, his slouched with waving plumes, his back flat and forehead with skull and crossbows on it, and here with thrilling ecstasy the whisperings, it's Tom Sawyer, the pirate, the Black Avenger of the Spanish Main. Yes, it was settled his career was determined. He would run away from home and enter upon it. He would start the very next morning. Therefore, he must now begin to get ready. He will call his resources together. He went a rotten log near and at hand and began to dig under on one end of it with his barrel knife. He stuck his some struck wood that sounded hollow. He put his hand there and uttered his incantation impressively. What wasn't come here gone, what's here stay here. Then he scraped away the dirt and disposed a pine shingle. He took it up and disclosed a shapely little treasure house whose bottom and sides were of shingles. In it lay a marble. Tom's astonishment was boundless. He scratched his head with a perplexed air and said, "Well, that's that beats anything." Then he tossed the marble away petulantly and stopped cogitating. The truth was that a superstition of his had failed her, which he and all his comrades had always looked upon infallible. If you buried a marble with certain necessary incantations and left it alone a fortnight and then opened the place with the incantation he had just used, you will find that all the marbles you had ever lost had gathered themselves together there, maintain, no matter how widely they had been separated. But now this thing had actually and unquestionably failed. Tom's whole structure of faith was shaken to its foundations. He had many a time heard of these things succeeding, but never of its failing before. It did not occur to him that he had tried it several times before himself, but could never find the hiding places afterward. He puzzled over no matter sometimes and finally decided that some witch had interfered and broken the charms. He thought he would satisfy himself on that point. So he searched around till he found a small sandy spot with a little funnel-shaped depression in it. He laid himself down and put his mouth close to this depression and called, Doodlebug, tell me what I want to know. Doodlebug, tell me what I want to know. The sun began to work, and presently a small black bug appeared for a second and then darted under again in a fright. He doesn't tell. So it was a witch that told it. I just know it. He well knew the futility of trying to contend against witches, so he gave up, discouraged. But it occurred to him that might as well have the marble he had just thrown away, and therefore he went and made a patient search for it. but he could not find it. Now he went back to this treasure house and carefully placed himself just as had been standing when he tossed the marble away. Then he took another marble from his pocket and tossed it in the same way, saying, "Brother, go find your brother." He watched where it stopped, and when there a looked, but it must have fallen short or gone too far, so he tried twice more. The last repetition was successful. The two marbles lay within a foot of each other. Just heard the blast of a toy tin trumpet come faintly down the green isles of the forest. Tom flung off his jacket and trousers, turned a suspender into a belt, raked away some brush behind a rotten log, disclosing a root bow and a row and let's word and the tin trumpet, and in a moment had seized these things and bounded away, barrel-legged, with fluttering shirt. He presently halted under a great elm, blew out an answering blast, and then began to tiptoe and look warily out. This way and that he said cautiously to an imaginary company, "Hold me, my merry men, keep height till I blow." Now appeared Joy Harper, as airily clad and elaborately armed as Tom. Tom called, "Halt! Who comes here into shower forest without my pass?"
Why of were born once no man's pass? Who are you that dares to boot such language? Satan, from time, for they taught it by the book, from memory. Who are you that dares to hoot such language? I, indeed, I am Robin Hood, as thy caitiff tartars soon shall know. Then art thou indeed that famous Ola? Right gladly will I dispute with to the pace of the merry good. Have a tree. They took their lad sword, dumped their other tracks on the ground, stood a fencing attitude foot to foot, and began a grave, careful combat. Two up and two down. Presently Tom said, "No, is you've got the bang, go it lively." So they went it lively, panting and perspiring with the work. By and by Tom shouted, "Hal, Hal, why don't you fall?" "I shan't." "Why don't you fall yourself? You're getting the worst of it." "Why, that ain't anything. I can fall. That ain't the way it is in the book. The book says, then with one back-handed straight, he slew poor Guy of Wishbone. You're to turn around and let me hit you in the back." There was no getting around the authorities, so who turned beside the wall and fell. "No," said Jose, getting up. "You got to let me kill you. That's fair." "Why, I can't do that. It ain't in the book." "Well, it's plain mean. That's all." "Well, say, Joe, you can be fair to or match the Miller soon." and lamb me with a quarterstaff, or I'll be the sheriff of Nottingham, and you, the Robin Hood, lightly will and kill me. This was satisfactory, and so these adventures were carried out. Then Tom became Robin Hood again, and was allowed by the treacherous Moon to lead his strength away through his neglected wound, and at last Hoe, representing a whole tribe of weeping outlaws, towed him sadly forth, gave his bone into his feeble hands, and Toon said, "Where this alarm falls, there bury poor Robin Hood under the greenwood tree." Then he shook the alarm and fell back and would have died, but he lit on a needle and sprang Upton gaily for a escort. The boys dressed themselves, hid their accoutrements, and went off, weeping that there were no outlands any more, and wondering what modern civilizations could claim to have done to compensate for their loss. They said they would rather be outlaws a year in Sherwood Forest than President of the United States forever. Chapter 9. At 9:30 that night, Tom and Sid were sent to bed. As usual, they said their prayers, and Sid was soon asleep. Tom lay awake and waited in restless impatience. When it seemed to him that it must he nearly died like he heard the clock strike 10. This was the spur he would have tossed and fidgeted as his nerves demanded, but he was afraid he might wake Sid. So he lay still and stared up into the dark. Everything was dismal still. By and by, out of the stillness, lightly, scarcely perceptible noise began to emphasize themselves. The ticking of the clock began to bring itself into notice. Whole bands began to crash mysteriously. The stars creaked faintly. Evidently, spirits were abroad. A measured, muffled snore issued from out police chamber. And now the tiresome chirping of a cricket that no human ingenuity could locate. Begin next the ghastly ticking of a dead watch in the wall as the beds had made to shudder. It meant that somebody's days were numbered. Then the howl of a far-off dog rose on the night air and was answered by a fainter moan from a remoter distance. Tom was in agony. At last he was satisfied that time had ceased and eternity begun. He began to dawn in spite of himself. The clock chimed 11, but he did not hear it, and then there came, mingling with his half-formed drains, a most melancholy caterwauling. The rising of a neighboring window disturbed him, a cry of statue devil, and the crash of a empty bottle against the back of his aunt's woodshed brought him wide awake, and a single minute later he was dressed and out of the window and creeping along the roof of the hill on all fours. He moved with caution once or twice as he went, then jumped to the roof of the woodshed and danced to the ground. Huckleberry Finn was there, with his dead cat. The boys moved off and disappeared in the ground. At the end of half an hour they were wading through the tall grass of the graveyard. It was a graveyard of the old-fashioned western kind. It was on a bill about a mile and a half from the village. It had a crazy board fence around it, which led inward in place, and outward the rest of the time, but stood upright nowhere. Grass and weeds went land over the whole cemetery. All the old graves were sunken in. There was not a tombstone on the place. Around topped were edged boards starward over the graves, learning for support and thinking none, sacred to the memory of Sue and Sue had been painted on them owns, but it could to no longer have been read on the most of them. Now, even if there had been light, a fine wind moaned through the trees, and thought fair it might be the spirits of the dead, complaining at being disturbed. The boys talked lightly, and only ordered their bread, for the time and the place and the pervading solemnity and silence oppressed their spirits. They found the sharp new help they were settling and ensconced themselves within the protection of three great elms that grew in a bunch within a few feet of the grave. Then they waited in silence for what seemed a long time. The hooting of a distant owl was all the sound that troubled the dead stillness. Tom's reflections were opposite. He must for some time, so he said in a whisper. Hutley, do you believe that dead people like it for us to be here? Huckleberry whispered. I wish nothing. It's a awful solemn light, ain't it? I bet it is. There was a considerable pause, while the boys canvassed this matter inwardly. Then Tom whispered, Say, Hutley, do you really count House Williams hers stalking? Oh, course he does. Lest his spirit does. Tom, after pause. I wish it said Mr. Williams, but I never meant any harm. Everybody tells him has. A body can be two parted, like how they talk about this jar did people, Tom. This was a damper, and conservation did again. Presently Tom said his comrades are unsaid. Shh! What is it, Tom? And the two clung together with beating hairs. Shh! There, this again. Didn't you hear it? I. There. Now you hear it. Lord Tom, they're coming. They're coming, sure. What we do? I don't think they'll see us. Oh, Tom, they can see in the dark. Some attacks. I wish I had come. Oh, don't be afraid. I don't believe they'll bother us. We ain't doing any harm. If we keep perfectly still, maybe they won't notice us at all. I try to, Tom, but Lord, all of a shiver. Listen. The boys bent their heads together, a startlingly bad head. A muffled sound of voices floated up from the far end of the graveyard. Look, see there, whispered Tom. What is it? It's devil fear. Oh, Tom, this is a phone. Some vague figures approached through the gloom, swinging an old-fashioned tin lantern that flooded the ground with innumerable lightly sprinkles of light. Presently Huckleberry whispered with a shudder. It's the devil's sure enough. Three of an lordy. Tom, we're goners. Can you pray? I'll try, but don't you be afraid. They ain't going to hurt us. No, I lie me down to sleep. I. Shh! What's it? Hoot! They're humans. One of an is anyway. One of ends of my Muff Potter's boys. No, tain't so, is it? I bet I know it. Don't you stir not Buddha. He ain't sharp enough to notice us drunk. The same as usual, lightly blind all right.
All right, all keep still. Now they're stood, can't find him. Here they come again. Now they're hot. Hot again. Hot again, red hot. They're painted bright this time. Say, Hawk, I know another of them voices is in your jaw. That's so, that's murdering. Half brave, alluded bait, half devils at their side. What kind they up to? The whisper died woolly out. Now, for the three men had reached the grave and stood within a few feet of the boy hiding place. Here it is, said the third voice, and another fist held the lantern up and revealed the face of young Dr. Robinson. Powder and Injun Joe were carrying a hand with a rope and a couple of shovels on it. They cast down their load and began to open the grave. The doctor put the lantern at the head of the grave and came and sat down on his back against one of the trees. He was so close the boys could have touched him. Hurry, man, he said, in a low voice. The moon might come out at any moment. They grabbed a response and went on digging. For some time there was no noise but the grinding sound of the space discarding their freight of mud and gravel. It was very monotonous. Finally, a space truck opened the coffin with no woody accent, and within another minute or two The men had hoisted up underground. They praised of the lid with the shovels, got off the body, and dumped his rudely pallid face. The bar was got ready and the corpse placed on it, covered with a blanket and bound to its place with a rope. Pollard took out a large spring knife, a cut off the dangling end of the rope, and then said, "Now the cook's thing ready, salmons, and you'll just off with another 5, or here she stays." "That's it all," said Injun Joe. "Look here, what does this mean?" said the doctor. "Your car you pay in advance, and I've paid you." "Yes, and you do more than that," said Injun Joe, approaching the doctor, who was now standing. "5 years ago you drove me away from your father's kitchen one night, when I come to ask for something to eat, and you said I weren't there for any good. And when I swore I'd get even with you, it took 100 years for your father had me jailed for a bank. Did you think I'd forget? Did you obey I in me for nothing? And now I've got you. And you got the salute, you know." He was threatening the doctor with his fist in his face. By this time, the doctor struck out suddenly and struck the ruffian on the ground. Potter dropped his knife and exclaimed, "Here now! Don't you hit my part." And the next moment he had grabbed his daughter, and the two were struggling with might and main, trampling the grass and tearing the ground with their heels. Inner Joe sprang to his feet, his eyes flaming with passion, stared at Potter's knife, and went screaming, Cadillac and stopping, round and round and about the competence, seeing in an opportunity. All at once the doctor flung himself free, seized the heavy headboard of William's grave, and fell Potter to the earth with it. And in the same instant the half-breed saw his chance drove his knife to the hilt of the young man's breast. He railed a fair body on Potter, flooding him with his blood, and in the same moment the clown's brother and the dreadful spectacle, and the two frightened boys went speeding away in the dark. Presently, when the moon emerged again, Indian Joe was standing over the two forms, contemplating them. The doctor murmured in a breath, gave a long gasp or of two, and was still the half-breed mother. "That score is settled then, you." Then he rubbed the body, after which he put the fatal knife in Potter's open right hand, and sat down on the dismantled coffin. 3 or 5 minutes passed, and then Potter began to stare at Mom. His hand closed upon the knife, he raised it, glanced it, and let it fall. With his shudder, then he sat up, pushing the body from him, and gazed at it, and then around him confusedly, his eyes met Joe's. "Lord, who is this, Joe?" he said. "It's a dirty business," said Joe, without moving. "What did you do it for?" I never done it. Look here, that kind of talk won't wash." Potter turned and grew white. "I thought I got sober. I know message to drink tonight, but this is my head get worse when we start here. A man in a muddle can't recollect anything of it. Hardly tell me. Joe, honest. Now, all fair, did I do it? Joe, I never meant to pound my soul at honor. I never mean to, Joe. Tell me how it was, Joe. Oh, it's awful, and him so young and promising. What you did was coughing, and he fed you with one of the hairboard, and you fell flat. And then on the come already and striding like, and snatched the knife and jammed it into him. Jesus he fed you another awful clip, and here you lie dead as I waited till now. Weapon in my life before, Joe. I fought never with weapons. They all say that, Joe. Don't tell. Say you won't tell, Joe. That's a good favor. I was like this, Joe. And so for you too. Don't you remember? You won't tell, will you, Joe? And the poor creature dog have his knees before the stolen warrant and clasped his appealing hands. "No, you've always been fair and square with me, no power, and I won't go back on you. There, now that's as fair as a man can say. Oh, Joe, you're an angel. I bet you for the longest day I live." And Potter began to cry. "Come now, that's enough of that. This ain't any time for bluffing. You bit of one yonder way I've got this. Move now and don't leave any tracks behind you." Potter started on a road that quickly increased from wrong. The half-breed stood looking after him, he muttered. If he's as much stoned with the look of foul, with the Roman he had the look of being, he won't think of the night that he's gone so far he'll be afraid to come back after each suit of life by himself. Chicken heart. 2 or 3 minutes later, the murdered man, the blanket corpse, the needle and the coffin, and the open grave were under no inspections but the moons. The stillness was completely again too.